6 o'clock. Thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and officially call this meeting to order. I have a short, I guess, sort of invocation to read, so you're welcome to stand or not. It's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Creator, we ask that you look kindly on this gathering and grant us wisdom to see events in their true perspective, not for ourselves or for merely material gain, but rather that we may learn in thought and for the gain of all. Let us incline our ears toward wisdom and apply our hearts to understanding. Let us seek knowledge for the hope of finding understanding. Creator, we give sincere thanks for this opportunity to meet together and for the opportunity to become better acquainted with our fellow associates and residents. May we listen to one another intently with the purpose of bettering ourselves and our community. May we humbly accept the responsibilities assigned to us. May we carry out each of these responsibilities to the best of our capabilities. This assembly is composed of many old and fast friends, acquaintances of a very brief time, those who strive together, and some who have never met. Permit no one to leave here a stranger, or less a person than when arriving. Since each of us is a part of all we have ever witnessed, let what we have observed be to thy good and available to all. There are those among us who have come many miles to share our day. Grant that they may return safely to their homes and families. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Okay, Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snowberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry.
Here.
Commissioner Slight.
Here.
Commissioner Randall.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis.
Here.
All present.
All right, thank you. Next is agenda approval. If there are any items that do not meet the approval for being heard on this evening's agenda, now is the time to remove those items. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda as given.
Mayor, I move to approve this evening's agenda as given.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up is our citizen recognition. Does I believe we have a couple out there.
Yes, sir, we do. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Saavedra.
Mr. Mayor, City Commission, I just actually want to take a moment to recognize two individuals. One of them is Michael Smith, and the other is Michael Terrazas. And the reason why we're recognizing them right now is they've actually been able to take a piece of property that was vacant and not the greatest shape and turn life into it. And this building right here is at the corner of Main and Chaco. So I don't know if everybody could see right now with the lights being so bright, but this is the building that we're talking about. And Mr. Terrazas actually is in this building right here. And what they did in a year is actually go from this to that. And so this building is part of our MRA. We're very fortunate that Mr. Michael Smith spent a lot of his money, time, and energy to redo this building. And right now there's 3 businesses in there right now and 1 residential unit. And so we're very pleased. This is one business that we're also recognizing. This is the new barbershop in Aztec.
Bare Knuckle Barbershop, right?
Bare Knuckle Barbershop. And this is what it looks inside. And so we're very pleased to have this addition in Aztec, in downtown Aztec. And we've seen of what it was and what it now has become. And so with that, we're actually here to honor both of these gentlemen with these plaques to the service of the city of
I saw
Aztec.
Mike from the barbershop. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever met Mr. Smith. Is he here as well? Okay. Well, come on up, folks. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
everything
you.
you're doing.
And just so everybody in the crowd knows, this is actually the traveling trophy that goes around. It's like the Stanley Cup. So, right now, whoever wants it. But this is basically a recognition that this building, these businesses have been recognized. They've done a lot of good in the community. So if anybody wants to hold on to it, you can get it tomorrow, too. It's not a problem.
I was gonna get it, give it to Mike.
We need it back, though. That'll work. All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, goes there.
Okay, do we have any other citizen I don't personally have any. Does anybody else have any?
sir.
Anybody? Okay. All right, our next item is employee recognition.
I do have one. I just want to recognize the Public Works crew again. A couple of weeks ago, snow, rain, wind, they had an 8-inch water line break out there on 173, and it happened at a real convenient time, about 8 o'clock in the evening, I think, and they were out on that break for probably about 4 or 5 hours. Got everything back online and up and running, but just as a reminder of what they do, we appreciate your efforts, Steve and your crew.
Pass it on, you're up till 1 o'clock.
Wow.
Making sure people have water.
Thank
So
you.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, please pass that on. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Any employee recognition? Is that it? Okay. Next up is citizens input. All right, folks, this is going to be like we did 2 weeks ago. We're going to go back to the kind of the standard way we do the citizen recognition. You're going to have 3 minutes. City clerk has graciously volunteered to keep time. And so if you would, I mean, if you're right at that 3 minutes and you have like 1 or 2 more words and you're finishing a thought kind of thing, you know, of course, finish your thought. You know, you don't have to stop in the middle of the kind of thing. But otherwise, please be respectful of the time of the other folks that have signed up and do your best to keep your comments to 3 minutes. I will remind you all once again, just for, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of returning folks or maybe some new folks here, but we are not here to kind of interact back and forth on this. It's citizens input. You get to kind of say what's on your mind, and then we just move to the next person. So if we can do this a couple of ways. How about we do 2 at a time and someone can be kind of like on deck like in baseball or something? We do that? Okay, so, and if you don't mind, when you come up to the mic, just state your name and where you're from, please, for the crowd and for the record kind of thing, okay? First up is Don Schreiber, and then we have Leslie Hewitt. And if I could say one more thing, I was asked before we kind of got kicked off after the workshop, let's do our best to keep the doors as clear as possible because we are definitely at least at capacity, I would say. So we have to be careful for public safety purposes and things like that, okay?
111. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you very much for your time. Don Schreiber, 50-year resident of San Juan County. I'd like to say, get in some kind of contest with somebody about when they arrived here. I got here in 1948. So, and my great pleasure and that of my dad for 44 years here to ensure the city of Aztec, the county of San Juan. And it's been my great pride going around the world as my job took me and my retired career takes me to brag on how the people of San Juan County, particularly Aztec, Bloomfield, and Farmington get along. So my great interest is that as we consider whether we're going to put our city at risk for violations of the law, that we let our personal concerns go to the side and stand up, not put our cities at risk, not do what Bloomfield did. There's a very emotional issue in Bloomfield that you're all familiar with the 10 Commandments. I think everybody, like me, probably in favor of the 10 Commandments. I'm in favor of a lot of things, but that place in a city government is outside the Constitution, and pursuing an emotional, personal gain or concern almost bankrupted the city of Bloomfield. So I don't want to use all my time. I want to say how proud I am to have been a citizen of San Juan County, how we've solved problems and come out, and I have so many friends here tonight, and that's what I want to see at the end of this meeting. So, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Leslie.
And my name is Leslie Hewitt, and I live in Farmington, and I'm a pretty much lifelong resident of New Mexico. I'm a recently retired public education teacher, and I taught at Aztec High School for a couple of years, and I taught at Park. And I just wanted to come and share what it feels like to teach in the public school system with the restrictions that we have now concerning safety for students, and what that feels like as a teacher, and what that must be like for students, what it seems to be like for students. And I wasn't raised like that. I grew up in New Mexico, and we didn't have these concerns. And when I remember getting under the desk to hide for the nuclear, and there's a lot of people who remember this, you got under the desk because there was this nuclear threat, this Cold War threat. But that went away, and by the time I was in mid-school, we weren't doing that anymore. And I don't remember my children, who were all raised and educated in New Mexico, feeling threatened at school. And then I became a public educator, and during the process of my education, I found out that public school was started because people believed that young people ought to be educated so they can go out into their community and contribute. And that's how it all started. And I think now that it's a very scary proposition to go to school, and I don't know what young people think about the kind of lockdowns and things that happen in schools, but I know it's disturbing to the teachers, to the students, to the parents. And then I also attend church in Farmington. And now in the narthex of our church, we lock the doors to the church, and somebody sits in the narthex to make sure that we're all safe in church. And I just want to say that it seems to me like we want to teach our kids that this is a community where they are safe. And at least when we were hiding under the desk, that was some far-off entity that, you know, was pretty abstract to us. But I think kids might be learning that we're afraid of each other. And I want to just say, I hope that we put our emphasis more on what we're teaching kids and how we go about that and make it safe for them. And in churches, I mean, it's hard to be in community when you're so cautious of each other and afraid. So thank you.
Thank you. Next two are Mr. Bryant Banry and Darcy Moss.
Who's the other one?
Is Mr. Banry? I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Maybe somebody could shout out there, see if Mr. Banry's out in the overflow area. All right, well, how about I'll put a little star next to his name. If he shows back up before we're finished, we'll let him come in to the end part. So we have Darcy Moss and then Miranda Viscoli. Did I pronounce that right? Yes. Okay. So we'll have Darcy and then Miranda. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Darcy Moss. I come from Cedar Hill. I've been in Aztec for 35 years. I married a local boy, and all my kids went to Aztec school, and along with my husband. I think that Aztec should be a sanctuary city because it's the Constitution. And HB 83, I think you ought to call it the vindictive bill. That takes away from due process, and a gun is an inanimate object, like a car. If somebody injures or kills someone with a car, who do you blame? The car or the person that killed someone? If a person is bent on harming someone, Taking their gun away is not going to deter them. They will have a knife, they will have a hammer, a rock, or their fists. They will find a way. Just taking their gun away is not going to do the job. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Miranda Viscoli, and I'm co-president of New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence. And let me point that I am a gun owner. We are not anti-gun, and Michael Bloomberg has never given us a penny, so I just want to make that very clear. The majority of the work we do is with youth on gun violence prevention, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that our youth are frightened, scared, and beyond confused as to why we're doing so little to keep them safe. We're on the front line of this. And it breaks our heart to see what's happening. In terms of these Second Amendment sanctuary cities, we are very concerned that cities are going to be sued. The Second Amendment sanctuary cities go against the United States Constitution. The question at the center of this issue is who has the power to establish, interpret, and enforce laws? The answer has already been decided by the United States Constitution. The power lies within the people to elect officials, including sheriffs, to petition the government to change laws and to expect law enforcement to enforce laws set forth by our state and our federal legislators. In addition to this, Second Amendment sanctuary cities, believe it or not, actually go against the New Mexico state constitution. The Constitution vested all regulatory power, whether expansive or restrictive, in the state and preempted actions taken by counties and municipalities. By passing Second Amendment sanctuary cities, we're putting our cities in danger of being sued, and we're going to lose that money. In addition to that, sanctuary cities leave our citizens without protection from gun violence. They damage the balance of power between the branches of government. They usurp power from the legislative and judicial branches and leave our citizens unsure of the processes of their own government. And lastly, sheriffs are in violation of their oath of office. The Constitution of the State of New Mexico, Article 20, Section 1, reads, "Every person elected or appointed to any office shall, before entering upon his or her duties, take and subscribe to an oath or affirmation that she or he will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and the laws of the state." So I think that we need to all take a breath and realize that we're not about being anti-gun. We're not about taking guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. I'm sure every single person in here is a law-abiding gun owner, but what we're concerned is making sure that those guns don't end up in unsafe hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Bryce Current and Sue Current. So if you guys want to do this or one after the other, whichever you prefer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am pretty sure that from all the counties in our state becoming sanctuary cities, the people have spoken. I think, well, let me say this. My late husband, Gene Current, was on the council at one time. He was a very peaceful man, but he owned a lot of guns. He loved guns. He loved to teach the youth safety with guns and how to be safe. And I truly believe that when I was alone after he died, I wanted to be safe in my home, and I wanted to have my guns.
Sorry, excuse me.
Now, his family helped found this city in 1800s, the Currents. My name is Sue Current Olvera. I've recently remarried. We've lived here now 12 years, but Gene grew up here and was born here and lived here as a baby. I see some of you on the council that Gene served with. I think you all know his beliefs, what a peaceful man he was. Now, I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it. I've heard the rumor that the gun show that was allowed in Aztec has been kicked out by our council. Is that a truth?
Yeah. I'm not starting a precedent here, okay? Right? Okay. No.
Okay, good. I love to hear that. But I do know that from the rumor, Gene and I had great respect for the people on the council when he was here, even when we disagreed. And there were a lot of strides taken in the last 10 years with the council. The council, the city of Aztec, used to have a bad reputation. I don't know if y'all remember that. Being hard to deal with, could not grow. The city of Aztec could not grow because the council wouldn't let it grow. And over the years, that reputation was gone. You have a bad reputation again. And that's sad to me because of what my husband's family stood for. And I think that you better pack your bags. And I think this because here we are. We're the citizens. We know what we want. And I heard, and it may be wrong, that our esteemed mayor said that he will not be bullied after the last council meeting. Now, my question is bullying since when is bullying not democracy? Since when is democracy bullying?
I'd be happy to talk to you about that another time, but I'm sorry, your time's up.
You're out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's going to take her about 3 minutes to get back to her chair. I'm here to talk about water issues. I'm just kidding. Actually, the water main did break the night after I spoke for the first time, and I thought they turned my water off. But, you know, I had a speech last time. I don't this time. Somebody asked me if I wanted me to put my name down when I was on the way up here, and I said, put it down just in case. And I took a couple notes on this notepad as I was just sitting back here just now. But, you know, I really don't have a lot to say. I just think this comes down, you know, we could get up here and talk about gun rights, whether the sheriff's breaking his oath or not breaking his oath. We could go all day. We could go with attorneys on both sides of that argument all day long. But in your prayer, you asked, you know, that we do the right thing for the people and support and not support our own self-interest. So I don't want that to be used as an excuse. I actually want you to dig deep and do that very thing. Because you've heard from the people. Now, I don't know how many people are going to get up that aren't from Aztec and speak.
Already had some.
But I'm here to hear from the citizens of Aztec. And you know what? I don't want to offend anybody, but it looks like a whole bunch of rednecks and stuff in here with a bunch of... But, you know, I have never been prouder than hearing from these individuals the last 2 meetings. I heard a lot of facts, and I heard a lot of very educated people that have been educated through hard work and devotion to this city. So I'm very proud. You know, the thing I want to say, this doesn't matter what issue we're talking about up here. I don't think our mayor or anybody else should represent themselves with any immigration groups or this or that or the other, going up saying they're the mayor of Aztec or any other council member of Aztec, unless it's backed by these people, because that's who you're representing. So when you vote today, I want you to vote from what your people want. You heard 40-1, and the 1 was from Bloomfield. 40-something to 1 last week. That's your people. You set it up, they came, you heard, that's how you need to vote. And if you don't vote that way, I'll be sitting in your seat. Thank you.
Next to are Ed Marquez and Mike Padilla Sr.
Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And I first wish to thank the council for allowing me the privilege of waxing philosophical regarding the issue of tonight's pending resolution. Zed Marcus. I graduated from Aztec High School more years ago than I now care to admit. After graduation, I left to obtain an undergraduate degree from New Mexico State University. Upon receipt of my degree, I accepted a commission in the United States Navy, where I served in uniform for 27 years. I then retired and returned back to San Juan County, where I found employment first in the energy field for 18 months, and then having a teaching endorsement, entered public education, where I was in the classroom for 12 years, and then served as the Director of Operations for a county school district for 1 year, prior to retiring for good in 2014. I'm also a centrist Democrat who leans left on social issues, a moderate on fiscal issues, and I embrace the tenets of the Second Amendment with caveats. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution is written in terse and cogent form, stating, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed." But what does that mean? Some factions embrace the view that the amendment was written only to allow for the armed defense of communities, and other factions embrace the concept that the amendment allows for unregulated, unfettered access and use of firearms. There are also groups that also believe any form of regulation is a precursor to taking our guns away. When I have engaged in debate with this group and asked them who's taking their guns away and how, I've yet to be on the receiving end of an erudite and cogent response. I'm personally flummoxed by the consternation demonstrated by those who feel regulatory policies will deny access to arms. It has been my personal experience that the current policies in place have never kept me from obtaining and owning firearms. In the last 3 years, I have purchased 3 shotguns, 1 assault rifle, 4 handguns, and 3 long guns. In each case, including the background check, the whole evolution took 20 minutes or less. I have read tonight's proposed resolution multiple times, and it speaks to 3 Supreme Court cases regarding firearms. I wish to briefly speak on 2 of the 3. It wasn't until 2008 that the Supreme Court, in the case of District of Columbia versus Heller, in a 5-4 decision, the court ruled definitively that a private citizen has a constitutional right to own firearms for self-protection of family and of home. Do I believe the Supreme Court's decision was a sagacious one? Yes, I do. Because in April of 1967, all I want to say to finish up is there are regulations in place which I embrace regarding the issue of firearm control, and I thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Padilla?
Hard to follow a Navy guy from a Marine, so Ed, good job. My name is Mike Padilla. I've lived in this community since 1956. I'm a firm believer in what we're doing. I got an email the other day that really set me off, and that was the fact that there was going to be a bunch of Democrats come in and stop what's going on. Well, I'm a firm believer that this issue is not political. It's not Democrats, it's not Republicans, it's not independents. It's the citizens of Aztec who believe in our community. I sat in the mayor's seat for several years. I sat on this commission for several years, and I believe in our community. One thing that I was really thinking about today was the controversial issues that we have in front of us. And I faced those controversial issues sitting up there as mayor. And one thing that I did through my whole term was listen to my community. They made the decisions of what we did. We dealt through annexation. We dealt through eminent domain. We dealt through the Animas La Plata project. We did all those controversial things, but we listened to what the community said. That's what the commission did, and that's what I stood up there as the mayor and voted for. I believe in Aztec. I believe in the resolution that we need to be a sanctuary city. And as I said in the last meeting, we're hanging out there with the other communities. And I still am a firm believer that when I run again, Mayor, that we will go back to having the Tri-City, because I think that's important. I think that we have the communication between the 3 cities and the county, because that's what we did, and we all came together. And right now, we're not. So please take a look at that when you vote tonight and think what's important to this community. I'm not going to preach the Second Amendment because I'm a firm believer. They handed me a gun at 18 years old, sent me overseas, and told me to defend my nation under the Constitution, which I did. And I have suffered for it severely, but I'm very proud of the 29 surgeries I've had through the years. And I'm proud of this community and everybody standing here that is supporting this community. Thank you.
Next two are Mary Hunter and Mike Anderson. And if, oh, okay, I know who it is now. Never mind.
You want to go ahead, Mike?
Right.
I'm Mary LaRue Hunter. I've been a resident of Aztec for going on 50 years. Several of you, or the many of you who have been here at the last couple of meetings have heard me speak either about the trash situation or about the Second Amendment. I want to read to you from the New Mexico Constitution, the Section 6 of Article 2. No law shall abridge the right of the citizens to keep and bear arms for security, defense, for lawful hunting and recreational use, or for other lawful purposes, but nothing herein shall hold to permit the carrying of concealed weapons. Now this is the important part. No municipality or county shall regulate in any way or incident the right to keep and bear arms. And that's as amended of November 2nd, 1971 and November 2nd of 1986. So those were quite recent. Our rights as American citizens are not given to us by the government. They are given to us by God. It is the government's responsibility to help us maintain and keep those rights. And we, the citizens, have spoken, and yes, there was a call among the anti-gun people to be here tonight, and we've heard several of them. But I think you know that the people of the city of Aztec want Aztec to be a Second Amendment sanctuary city. Thank you.
Evening, my name is Mike Anderson. I'm here with the accusation that they have on Martin and Sumner Place, that they're trying to acquisition into a multifamily home.
Okay.
And I'm here to
Oh, I'm sorry.
against it.
Yeah.
Because right now the house is full
So-
of mold.
Sir, I'm not trying to cut you off. That's part of the land use stuff that we're going to be doing after we get through our business items, and you'll have an opportunity to speak towards that as I guess as a witness or an interested party.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That'll work.
There must have been a little confusion. I apologize. Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So if you could please check the land use and make sure Mr. Anderson, I think he might have just put his name on the wrong list accidentally. So if we can make sure that's good to go. Okay? All right. Took me a second and then it kind of came into focus. So we got Spike, and is that Haley or Hallie Metter? I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Holly. Okay. If someone could shout out to her, and if she doesn't get up here, we'll come back around again. And just real quick, if anybody has seen Mr. Banry, if he's still around, I don't know if he's sticking around or if he took off. I just want to make sure he gets a chance to talk. Okay, so we'll start with you, Spike. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I don't have a lot to say.
What I do have to say is this,
Maybe.
and I believe my
There you go.
patriots will back me up on this. Stover, why don't you take your liberal candy ass back to Virginia? That's all I got.
Can I say something?
Can you say something?
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Everybody, we're asking you to be respectful of everybody here tonight. Everybody has a chance to voice their opinion. Please be respectful.
And it's Snover, by the way. That's an N, not a T. It's right here. Next, Tara, I'm sorry. Okay. Is that you, ma'am? Can you, I don't know if,
Number 14.
it's hard to say.
I'm Tara Lee Swank. I spoke last week, and I want to just reiterate some of the things that I said about how our founding fathers made it a very special point that we have the Second Amendment, and they knew that it was to protect us not from foreign governments, but from our own government when they begin to show tyranny. So someone asked me why we're here, and I've been thinking about that, and I think the whole point is that we want to say that we follow the Constitution and the Second Amendment, and sometimes that has come in conflict with city and state laws, and we stand by the Constitution because that's where we get the right to keep and bear arms. I'm not from Aztec, but I know a lot of people in Aztec. I used to sell glass to insurance companies for Glass Doctor, so some of you might remember me, and I know it's a wonderful city, and I'm asking that you consider this resolution to strengthen the Second Amendment by making Aztec a sanctuary city. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I got my sheets mixed. Okay. All right, next up is Mike Wayborn and MP Schildmeyer.
Mike Wayburn, 1974 graduate of Aztec High School, was the FFA president, by the way, until I got impeached just like Nixon did. But anyway, you all know my view on the Second Amendment. I've been up here the last 2 weeks, first up, letting you know. Many of me and my brothers swore an oath, which I have many brothers here tonight, military brothers, to protect that Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. The word domestic never rang so loud to me as it does now. I'm sure it was loud back in the 1800s. But that word is growing for me, and it makes me sick. You know, we're in a country now where I can't put a drop of food coloring on a baby chick so my grandkids can have a red chicken because that's cruel to the little chicken. But now we kill babies like the day they're born. I mean, good grief. This right here tells me we shouldn't even be having this meeting. It's ridiculous. This has nothing to do with what we've been talking about. But one thing I've forgotten to tell you on my last 2 visits with you two, or you all, is on 2 occasions, me personally, and I'm not a politician, so you can fact check me, with the Aztec City Police Department. I have used a firearm on one occasion to protect myself, and on one occasion to protect another citizen. A lady was getting the crap beat out of her by her boyfriend or husband. These guys could tell you what it was. Anyway, I stopped it, and I stopped it with a firearm. The guy that broke into my house didn't work out so good for him. But I didn't lose my life nor my property. So without my Second Amendment right, there might be 2 less citizens in Aztec right now. I also lost a son to a homicide, and it wasn't a gun that killed him. Also, in our prison system is the most sterile environment in the United States. It is the most watched, the most gun-free of any place we have. But guess what? They got weapons and they kill people in our prisons. You gotta work on the people, not on the gun. And once more, like I've reminded you the last two occasions, it is your duty to vote with Aztec, not with what you think. I own 3 businesses in this town. I interact with a lot of citizens. The only one that probably interacts with more people than Aztec is my son, Coy. But I know how the city of Aztec feels. And I don't want you to ever put me and my military brothers up against that uniformed officer to decide who's going to enforce our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and staff, my name's MP Schodmeyer. I do live in Bloomfield. Since the adults in the room are having a little trouble getting along, I wanted to talk to you this evening about what some of our young people here in Aztec want, or what they feel about what happened on December 7th. Last year, in June, the Legislative Education Study Committee met here at Aztec High School. Now, this is a bipartisan committee composed of senators and state legislators, and they're the oversight committee for the Public Education Department. So they were meeting up here, and part of the presentation was comprised of 5 of the surviving students from the shooting. Now, these students weren't talking about the Second Amendment. I didn't hear anybody mention a gun, but these are some of the things that they did talk about. There was a young woman who got up and said, you know, before the shooting, we were all getting along, we were all happy, it was fun to come to school, you just came to school, you came in, saw your friends, said hello to your teachers. But after the shooting, now all the students have to wear name badges on lanyards to come in, and they get checked as the students walk in. And this young woman, through her tears, was saying how this had made her feel, because now she doesn't feel like a person. She feels like nobody cares about her as a person. All they care about is whether she has her name tag on, and that's who she is. And this made her very sad. Of course, this is from the trauma of the shooting, but this is what this young woman feels, and I'm sure to this day. You might have heard 2 students from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School in Florida, the shooting there, committed suicide within the last week or so. So now they have 19 kids dead. One of our Aztec students got up and said, you know, every morning I get up, I brush my teeth, I have my breakfast, and I prepare to die. She said, I don't want to die, and I don't think I'm going to die, but every morning I get up and I prepare to die. No young person should have to have those thoughts. This is what we need to be working on here in Aztec. These children, our children, and their feelings. We need to focus on their mental health. The same student that that reported getting ready to die every morning asked one of our elected representatives, could he help with some mental health, some more counseling? Could he work on that? Could they look into that? And he said, no, that's not the issue, that's not important, we're not going to do that. And she said, I felt totally disrespected. She felt disrespected. Our children shouldn't have to go through this. Let's listen to our children. I know some of you talked about mental health the last 2 times, so I know it's on your mind. Let's get together and work on our mental health for our children's sake.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's one thing we're not going to do is carry on and heckle. If you wanted to sign up, you had the opportunity to sign up. We're not going to accept and allow people to shout out from the back, okay? So let's just, be respectful. We're doing pretty good. Next 2 are Misty Evanson, I hope I pronounced that right, and Colby King. You guys are the next 2. I saw Mr. King earlier. I don't know if he's still here. Maybe he's out. Okay. All right. Go ahead and come on in. Go ahead, ma'am.
You want me to, my name is Misty Evanson. I am, can you hear me? Okay. First, I want to say I do live outside of the city limits, but I would like to say once a tiger, always a tiger. I have tiger pride. I graduated in '90. All 3 of my kids went to Aztec. I am a proud coach of your Aztec High School shotgun team. We are 2-time state champions. I'm also the secretary for the state New Mexico High School Clay Target Association, and I'm a state advisor for the Scholastic Shooting Program. This is our 4th year in New Mexico to have a program. We have 22 athletes in Aztec in grades 6th through 12th. In the state, we have 110 active athletes. At a normal competition, which we have 5 a year, we shoot about 23,000 rounds in a day. Every single athlete there has their own gun, if not more than one gun. These guns sit in gun racks unattended. Not a single person has been hurt in 4 years. These kids, many of these kids have worked hard to earn their own guns, and they actually allow other students to try their gun, see if it's a better fit, maybe, or if they have a malfunction, they'll let another student use their gun to finish competition. They support each other, whether they're a tiger or a buffalo, whatever. All of these athletes must pass hunter safety. Every shoot that we have starts with a safety meeting. I do want to say too that our school for this program, our school has thanked us. We're one of the only sports that actually grade checks before every competition. If we have a kid with a D or an F, they must get a grade check, or we don't let them compete. We hold them to a higher standard. We want them to not be great competitors, champions. We want them to be good people. Our parents, we've had many parents thank us. They have kids that may be going down the wrong path or don't have a place where they fit in, and this program gives them somewhere that they feel they belong, and it has got them on the right track. I want to say a few notes about the lady who spoke before me. My youngest graduated in 2016, and they wore name tags then. So that's not new. And I also want to say that my kids on the shotgun team, we had a competition 2 days after the shooting. The state wanted to cancel that shoot and give our kids time to heal. Our kids said, we want to be there. We want to be with our shotgun family, and this is how we heal. So not every child is afraid of a gun. Some of them turned to a gun and used it correctly. So I ask you, I'll end with this, I ask you to please vote to not jeopardize what this means to our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. King?
Good evening, I'm Colby King, a resident of Aztec. Seeing all these people here tonight makes me proud that I decided to move back with my family, and we're happy to be here. This is the 3rd commission meeting that I have attended, and this same issue has been brought up. And as I said last week, I would like to see us get back to municipal business. See a lot of closed businesses, a lot of problems around town, so I think we should focus on what's important at this point. I've heard many citizens speak much more eloquently about their Second Amendment rights, but I just asked the commission to look around and notice that I haven't seen one person that's against House Bill 83 that is not from Aztec. Everybody that's been here to support has done a great job, and people that been almost hand-picked out to speak against it, I think is sad, and I hope that you do listen to your constituents here in Aztec. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next 2, and we have 2 more after that, so there's 4 total, unless anybody's tracked down Mr. Banry or Miss Medder. Okay. We'll come back around. So Diane, is that Hathcock? and I'm sorry, is it Dale Brooks? I'm sorry, if I'm not. Did I get that right, sir? Yes, you did. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak here tonight. Thanks to our First Amendment. My name is Dale Brooks. My family came to New Mexico in a covered wagon before it was a state. We homesteaded land here. My family started 2 of the first aviation companies in Aztec and Farmington. My grandfather, who started Aztec Flying Service, trained pilots during World War II. And since then, many members of my family have served this great country in the military and during the war efforts. I say this not to toot our own horn, but to make you realize that we are not a bunch of fools with crazy ideas to keep our rights our forefathers made possible for us. None of our successes would have been possible if our forefathers had not seen the nonsense of a crown, a dictatorship, or a socialist type of government that Democrats want to impose on us. There was a reason that the founding fathers set up a republic where the people's voice would not only be heard, but could not be violated. That is the entire reason behind the Second Amendment in the first place, to make sure that all other parts of the Constitution can be upheld by force if necessary. During our original Revolutionary War, only approximately 3% of the population stood up and made their voices heard and took a stand on true freedom. Today, there are over 100 million firearms in circulation in the United States, which makes us the largest armed militia in the world. America is heading towards a dark place. I personally do not want to see another revolution, which will make the Civil War look like a picnic. San Juan County is among the largest firearm owner population in the United States per capita, possibly the largest. You need to make very careful consideration of that if and when you vote on these issues pertaining to laws affecting the Second Amendment. Again, I elaborate. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed in any way whatsoever. In closing, I want to make a very clear point that I do not feel it is right for 3 people on a 5-person commission should have the right to affect the civilian population of 6,500 people in this city, or 120,000 in San Juan County. My recommendation is to vote no to any and all firearm restrictions. If you feel the need is too great on your shoulders, call for a general election on the subject and let the entire public decide on this issue. If your temptation to vote yes is driven by your own political beliefs, I ask that you resign and you step down from your elected position immediately and let someone fill your position that takes their oath of affirmation honestly and sincerely.
Thank you.
One more thing I'd like to say before I leave
Sir, your time has passed, and we've given you a little extra, so.
Okay.
We have a lot more business to take care of
thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name's Diane Hathcock, and I love Aztec, and I love the people in Aztec. But we are living in a time that the world has just gone crazy, where it's okay to kill babies, but let's save the little sea turtles. Or, you know, and I love animals more than anybody. In fact, I like animals more than I do most people. But when have we turned so heartless and so immoral that we feel it's okay to kill babies? This is just one issue that drives me crazy when I hear people say, we've got to take care of these children. We've got to do things to save the children. Well, why do we kill them then? Okay, why? Now, another thing that I really believe in is as long as we keep perpetuating the school shooting to these children, they're going to have problems. You keep telling kids they have problems, they're going to have them. And when you have the mother of one of the children that were shot and killed in this school come and tell you, quit using her as a part of your agenda, my hat's off to her. Now, all I ask
ask is that you folks have the integrity of your position to listen to the people. We've been here 3 times now. If you haven't gotten the idea yet of what we want, then maybe he's right. Maybe you do need to resign and step down, because you're obviously not even thinking of your people. And so I ask you to please show the integrity of your office and do the right thing, and let's make Aztec a Second Amendment city. Thank you.
Is that Mr. Bannery?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What about Miss Medur? Has anybody tracked her down? Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Bannery, we'll go ahead and back up to your part on the list, and then...
My backyard was on fire.
Well, that's definitely a little more important, I think. So, Mr. Bannery, you're up now, and then Holly Hook and Bill Dees are the last 2 that have signed up.
I'm Brian Bannery. I'm from Aztec as well.
Hope your yard's okay.
13 South Church. In the past 100 years, leaders of countries around the world that impose firearm restrictions on their citizens has resulted in murder of over 100 million people throughout the whole world, as we know, as Earth. To our southern border, Mexico, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the world. Now, the drug cartels and the gangs have taken control of most of their society there. It is very dangerous to travel there, and they control most politicians and police through total intimidation. If you do not know what they want, they might kill you or members of your family to take what you do what they want, pretty much. Simply put, these gun laws the Democrats are proposing are not good for the general population. And since America is blessed with our Second Amendment to our Constitution, any law that violates it are not enforceable by law. The judges that sit the benches of the court across America will not and cannot enforce these laws. These types of cases will either be thrown out of court immediately, or they will be beaten in court by savvy constitutional attorneys. Sorry, I was running all the way over here.
Take a breath. You're okay.
That will definitely win these cases in court. The problem is, however, the law-abiding citizens who are charged with these unconstitutional infractions will have to retain legal counsel or representation on their behalf for these unconstitutional laws. Democrats, if you insist on socialism, move to Russia, China, Venezuela, or anywhere else. Just get out of America and take your freedom-killing ideas with you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have Holly Hook and Bill Dees. Okay.
I am not a citizen of Aztec. I am a lifelong lover of the town of Aztec. Many of you know me here. I was in 4-H with your kids. I'm the librarian at Aztec High. I'm proud to be so. I serve this community. I love this community. And I want to speak for this community, if you'll let me. One of the citizens, well, I don't know if he was a citizen, but one of the people that already spoke mentioned the importance of not letting one's emotions take over our reasoning, especially in a time like this. But that's exactly what is happening on the national level right now with the red flag laws and how our students are being used to manipulate the national dialogue in favor of those that would take away freedoms in a wholly ineffective attempt for safety. The career educator who stood up and spoke. I am also a career educator, 13 years. I concur. I'm sick of the travail of living in a gun-free zone, knowing it's a magnet for those who want to shoot fish in a barrel, knowing they will come up against absolutely no resistance. And there was a lady that spoke about the legal problem, the importance of not making things happen that are actually against the law of the land here today. Well, the supreme law of the land is the U.S. Constitution, so stated by the New Mexico Constitution. The supreme law of the land states, both in the Second Amendment and the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, that red flag laws are against the Constitution. One other lady mentioned the students of AHS and how they were consulted last summer. Teachers were not listened to. Teachers were not consulted. I, as a teacher, got no voice. There was a teacher last week that spoke. She got to have a voice finally. There's another teacher in the room. I want a voice. And I don't want people to use my sorrows to stand upon for their political agenda. Thank you.
Mr. Dees?
Okay, first off, I'd like to start off, apologize for my voice, but first off, if I butcher your name, I'm sorry, but Ms. Schindelmeyer, sorry. I think we all can get behind you on the mental health of the students. We all understand that, we all agree. But we also need to find out and get the legislature to figure out the mental health, trying to take care of these shooters before it ever happens at these schools. I don't know what that answer is. Now, my name is Bill Dees, and I was born in Farmington. I moved to Aztec with my parents in 1967. Went to Aztec schools from 1967 to 1979 when I graduated. Except for 3 years living in Farmington, I've lived in or near Aztec my whole life, and currently live over on South Rio Grande by the post office. Just so you don't think I'm just some local small town hick, I've been to 36 of our great states, and in 10 countries around the world. So I have seen the world. Why do I say all this? Because this is my town. This is our town. And I, and much of us in Aztec, took our eyes off the ball, and you, Mayor Snover, and others on the council, are where you are at now. Never again. We are awake. We are not going to put up with that.
That's right.
The United States is a constitutional republic, which means the people vote representatives into office to do what we ask them to do in the government. The last 2 weeks, over 3 meetings now, we've seen 50-plus people come up here and talk and tell you tell you and other city councilmen to leave our guns alone and to make Aztec a Second Amendment sanctuary city. There's only been a few handful that have come up and spoke against it. And most of those won't even have anything to do with Aztec. I and the citizens of Aztec demand that you listen to us and vote for Aztec as a sanctuary Second Amendment city. Now, in final, first off, I'd like to mention or direct this to Police Chief Heel. This is not a physical threat, but Mayor Schnover, if you don't listen to us citizens, this is a promise. We will make your life miserable as mayor. Yeah. You understand?
Okay, folks, that concludes citizen input. Thank you for everybody that stuck around to speak. We are moving on to consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda will be voted upon with one motion if any item proposed does not meet the approval of all commissioners. A commissioner may request that the item be heard under items from consent agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to remove item B for further discussion.
Okay. So we are going to remove item B. Do we? Okay.
So you ready for a motion?
Okay, so yeah, I'd stand for a motion to approve the agenda with the exception of item B, or consent agenda, I apologize.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hey, folks, excuse me for one moment. We have some more business, so if there's sidebar conversations, I just ask that you take them outside, please. Okay, so, all right, so now we're under items from consent agenda. Item B, Resolution 2019-1125, submittal of letter to annex BLM lands east of Aztec. Commissioner Randall.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had a question because I've never seen anything on annexation, so I just had some more questions for Ed. As far as and I read through the staff summary. I just want to make sure if we, move forward with annexing this property, I know this is just kind of the letter to get the ball rolling. Is there any other, I guess, liability on the city? I mean, if once the archaeological surveys and everything's done, that we can open it up to recreation, is it limitless? I mean, we'll own that?
No, it's not ownership. The land still is owned by BLM.
Okay.
They recommended that we think about, if we're going to pursue outdoor recreation, to start thinking about developing an outdoor recreational plan. We could do that, but if the things are outside the city limits, that really limits us as to what we can do or cannot do in terms of outdoor recreation.
Okay. So it'll still be owned by the BLM, but
Yes.
within the city limits?
Correct.
Okay, that clears it up for me.
That's why we needed to submit a letter to BLM, because then BLM will respond as to whether or not they object or support the annexation.
Okay.
And there's no private property being annexed at all. This is strictly BLM public lands.
Okay, so it's putting just that BLM property in city limits?
Correct.
Okay, that was where I was confused. I was confusing whether the city takes over that property or how that works, so.
If I might say something as well, bringing it into the city limits allows us to expend some city funds on signage and things to promote the outdoor recreation industry.
Sure, that answered my question.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Ed.
you.
Any other questions or discussion?
No.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion for consent agenda item B.
Mayor, I move to approve resolutions 2019-1125, or resolution 2019-1125, which allows for the submittal of a letter to the Bureau of Land Management.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We don't need a roll call that, do we, Carla? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we are now into business items. Sir, I apologize for your wait. Thank you for hanging in there. We have business item A, resolution 2019-1123, fiscal year 2018 annual financial audit acceptance. Ms. Lamb?
Mayor, Commission, before you is Resolution 2019-1123, accepting and approving the FY18 audit. This is slightly different than we've done in the past in that the audit was presented and acceptance, but a resolution hadn't been required previously. This is a change in DFA rules in the regulations that oversee the city. So that's the reason for the resolution. The audit was approved and released by the state auditor on March 2nd. We have a couple of findings that we can discuss later. They are repeat findings, and so we'll need to talk about those. Ben Martinez is with CRI, who conducted our audit, and he'll do the presentation and be available to answer any of your questions regarding their process with the audit.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you very much for having us. I'd like to start out by saying we'd like to thank the City of Aztec for choosing us to be your auditor for the 2018 fiscal year. My name is Ben Martinez. I was the audit manager on this audit, and this was the second year that under our former firm, RPC, we merged into Carr, Riggs & Ingram, CRI, in the past year. So this was the second year that we've worked on your audit and the second year that I've managed it. I'll try to be quick. That way you can get on to, I know there's a lot of business on your agenda. I'll go over really quickly the timeline that we had for our audit. We'll talk about the auditor's reports and opinions that the city received. We'll briefly talk about the findings. I can answer any quick questions. We'll go over some financial statement highlights and trends that we've noted for the city, and then we'll talk about a couple of new standards and then just a couple value-added suggestions on the way out. I've given you a one-page handout. A lot of the data that'll go into these slides is summarized on here in case you want to take that away with you, or actually see some of the numbers. We've got some charts in the slides and the actual numbers here that go along with that. Going over our timeline, the audit is a pretty quick turnaround for the state of New Mexico. For municipalities, it is due on December 15th. So we had some review in the engagement letter. We had a contract signed and approved by the state auditor. So the engagement letter, there was some language that we worked on and talked about. We got that signed on November 4th. We planned our audit between June, a little before year end, and November, before we hit the field. We came out in November. We gave our preliminary findings in the preliminary financial statement draft on December 11th for your review. We dated our report December 13th, and that's when we also held our exit conference. And then I'm here for the board presentation on March 19th after the state auditor released that. There was a little delay on their timeline this year with the releases. Going over your auditor's reports, the main report that you had was the independent auditor's report, and I'm glad to tell you that you got, the city received an unmodified opinion, and that's the best level of opinion you can get. What that says is that all the different captions on your financial statements, we were able to support those balances. Now, we can't say they're perfect because there's always rounding and there's things like that, but we can say that we were able to receive sufficient appropriate audit evidence and test that in order to say that those numbers are materially correct. And that's the same opinion we had last year. So you haven't had any issues with opinions there, so that's always a good thing. The other auditor's report we give, and this is the one, we don't actually give assurance on the report on internal control, but what we have to report there is the findings on the financial statements. And what we have here are two findings. One was a significant deficiency, which is something that's required by governmental auditing standards to be reported to you, and the other was a finding that's required to be reported under state statutes. And state statutes here in New Mexico, we have pretty much a zero reporting threshold. So if you have maybe a purchase order that goes over $10, the state says that needs to be included in a finding. If you go $20 over budget in one line or in one category or one fund, it could also be reported as well. So there's a very low threshold for those findings, but we do have to report them. So those findings, one related to internal controls over inventory with the electric department. There was just some of the controls there that we saw a couple of issues in the inventory count. It wasn't a material issue, but we did have to report that, and the city's working toward fixing that. And the other one was a travel and per diem, just an other non-compliance issue. I believe it was just an issue with calculation. It was not, we don't think that travel and per diem is going to pose a material threat to the city's operations. Talking overall about your statement of net position, so we have a couple of graphs here that show your assets. So the top line is your total assets, and overall it's been a pretty consistent trend. It's trending upward, which is good because in a lot of areas, assets, especially cash, is kind of trending down as financial resources are becoming more scarce. So there's been a pretty consistent trend for the city. Overall, the assets have gone up for your governmental funds for by about $6 million. Now, there are liabilities also on your balance sheet, and this is where you'll actually see that those have been increasing, but it's the main line that I should say you have control over is that light blue one in the middle. That's your actual debt that the city has approved, so your actual bonded debt. The top line is your total liabilities. The yellow line has to do with the liability you receive from the para-retirement, your net pension liability, and retiree health care, your OPEB liability. And that's actually a share determined by the state because you're in a state cost-sharing plan. So that you receive an allocation of the large state, and that's really what's driving up your total liabilities. But overall, besides 1 year where it increased a little, I believe there was some loans for water system improvements, your debt has been pretty stable. So that's really the line that the city controls itself. The line for your net pension and your OPEB liability, that's not something you really have control over. Now, the last slide related to your governmental activities is your statement of net position, which again, this has actually been pretty consistent. You haven't had a lot of large increases and decreases. One thing I'll say is you have a pretty strong net position in your governmental funds. A lot of places, when they had to adopt and record the net pension and the OPEB liabilities, they've actually gone to a deficit net position, and the city of Aztec is not. So that's good on you all. That means your fund balance is strong and you're holding those resources accountable. When it comes to your income statement, your revenues and expenses, they've kind of been up and down over the past couple of years. Your expenses in the dark blue are good because they're below your revenues. So that's a good thing. It means you're not spending more than you're actually receiving. Some of the years where revenues seem to be really high in comparison to your expenses is because that's when you've been working on capital projects, which are not really part of your expenses. Those add into your assets. So that's good. But that's one of the reasons I believe your net position is really strong, is that you're keeping your expenses lower than your assets on an annual basis. When we talk about your business type activities, a lot of the trends look about the same. Slowly, your total assets are going up. You've been in the last couple of years investing more in the capital assets, in the infrastructure, and also maintaining a good functioning cash balance there in case you have system repairs or capital improvements. Overall, that's gone up over the last 5 years. Again, when we talk about your liabilities, the business type funds, because they also have employees in there, they get a share of the pension liability. And in the last couple of years, the light blue line, which is the debt you control, has gone up a little, but those were loans related to water system improvements, which were approved and have been on your financial statements in the last couple of years. But again, that's what you all have control over. And as you notice, the pension and the OPEB liability are increasing a little bit, but that's something you really don't have control over when it comes to para and retiree health care. Your net position in the business type activities, so your utilities, is also good. It's also a positive net position, which indicates that it's a strong net position, especially absorbing those pension and OPEB liabilities. It's been relatively stable, which, considering the increases in those liabilities, means that you're building a good base in your assets and in your cash position there. Your revenues have been and expenses have been pretty consistent. There was 1 year that in this chart where the expenses jumped up. I believe that was before we'd really gone in on the audit. But I believe that might have been a significant repairs, construction expenses. But even that year where it just went a little bit over, most of the time your expenses are lower than your revenues, which is good because that'll help build that healthy net position. And then the last bit of analysis here talks about your general fund, which is the city's main operating fund, and that one's keeping pretty close revenues and expenses. This is where all your revenues and expenses are that aren't accounted for in other funds, if it's a special fund, special revenue fund, or a capital projects fund. And this fund keeps things pretty close, revenues and expenses every year. It's not building a large deficit or anything like that. The cash and investments have gone up a little bit, but they're right in that $3 million mark, which also is part of that state requirement for how much operating capital you're required to keep within your fund balance and your cash. And your budgetary variance, you've always well, not always, but consistently you're staying within your budgeted expenditures. So that's a positive thing. So if any of these were negative, that would show that you'd actually gone over your budgeted expenditures. But usually in the general fund, you're coming within your budget, which is also a good thing, and probably why your fund balance is staying so healthy and your net position is fairly healthy. The new statement we had to apply this year was GASB statement number 75, which, as I said, was the OPEB liability, so your retiree health care for your current and retired employees. The liability you assumed for that required a restatement of about $5 million to your balance sheet. So that was implemented this year. The good thing is that should be the end of the big liabilities you have to assume. You've done your pension back in 2015 and your OPEB now in 2018, so you shouldn't have any, unless they come out with another statement that hasn't come out yet, you shouldn't have any other big liabilities out there. A couple of standards that are upcoming. Next year, GASB Statement 84 or actually this is coming up year after next, or for 2019, or for this fiscal year's audit, or your next audit. It'll change how your agency funds are presented, which is your employee association trust. That it's not a large change, it's just a change in how that's displayed and how that's categorized on your financial statements. And then GASB Statement 87 is one that's coming up in 2020 and 2021. And that's talking about your leases. A lot of times you have operating and capital leases, and they're changing how that rule goes. So we're kind of ready to help on that. And it's both things you lease to places. If you have anything you lease out, you'd record like a lease asset. And anything you lease, as opposed to being an operating lease, it would be a lease liability now. So things are changing a little bit in a couple of years on that front. But we're always willing and able to help with that. So a couple of quick value-added suggestions. Each year we try to put on an update training to help people, help entities that we serve, go over various topics and updates. And we're always willing to help with that training. We'll send out any invitations when that gets scheduled. We're also available if you have any specialized training topics that you might be interested in, either with your different departments if you have certain things you want to update with, or we've also done training with commissions or boards just to help with that in that governance role and maybe understanding changes upcoming. And then the IT environment, we have with CRI, we're a top 20 accounting firm. We have a really strong IT division, so IT is the next big frontier. It's the next big threat. You hear about different places being hacked here or IT security issues. We have an entire wing of our business that serves IT needs. So if there's anything that the city needs on the IT front, that we are a resource that can be available to help in areas such as that. Just kind of to conclude, I just want to say the City of Aztec team, Kathy and the finance team were great to work with. We came out here, we got a little delayed on the way out due to snow that day, but there were 4 or 5 of us in the office, and they brought us everything we needed, and we got the audit out on time. So thank you again for the opportunity to serve the city. We value our relationship. We've had several audits up here. I've worked on several in the area. We used to work on Aztec schools, and I've worked on a couple up in Farmington. So, this is an area that we definitely want to serve and hope to build on this relationship. Any questions?
Anybody? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, if we're excused, could you tell us, we're waiting to see if you're going to vote today on the resolution for sanctuary cities.
We are. It is the next item on the agenda. It's a very timely question. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Do you want to have any, do you have any questions for me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy.
No. If you have questions on the findings, I just want to assure the body that we are working on those findings. We're making changes within the electric department, both physically as well as with policies to increase those internal controls. And then, of course, travel and per diem, that's everybody's favorite. So we continue to refine that process as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Lamb?
No. Just a statement that I think it's great. I mean, they're very small things that they found. It's nothing huge and material, like you said. So, I mean, I'm glad that there's a kind of a zero tolerance. So we do find these small things, but in reality, they're easy fixes, and hopefully we can wrangle up our electric department to.
And I think I read something in there. I'm not sure, but it said that you can't retire because of this. You got to stick with this for a few more years. I'm sure I read it somewhere.
Well, I was going to say that one of the reasons that those lines have stayed stable and such is because I keep telling all of these departments no.
Good job. Appreciate it.
Very good at doing that.
Good job.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to business item B.
Oh, we got to vote on this one first.
Oh, Jesus. I'm so sorry. Okay. We've closed discussion. I would like to entertain a motion on business item A.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution 2019-1123, accepting and approving the FY 2018 audit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Stover?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry?
Aye.
Commissioner Sight?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Now, moving on to business item B. Resolution 2019-1124, declaring City of Aztec Second Amendment Preservation City.
Open it up for.
I would like to open up this item for discussion. I think we all have the amended version in front of us. It is, can we get it up there, please, Ed? So while he's doing that, and there's several, I think, there were several paper copies, if I'm not mistaken, of the resolution? Perhaps, no, oh, I'm
there were
sorry.
not?
Okay.
Just for the commission.
Oh, okay, just for the
So,
commission.
if we,
Take a minute, let him take a minute.
yeah, I was going to say, we can take a second. Thank you for dimming the lights. It'll give you an opportunity to read over the amended version.
Do I,
Yeah. You go ahead and do that.
I know, are we ready for the motion now, or just for the statement?
Well,
Oh, introduce it, okay. I didn't know I was going to do that part. Okay. For those of you that, on the agenda, it did say that we were going to do a preservation city resolution. But after having conversations with our legal counsel, and her concerns in some of the wording in there, we have amended based on legal counsel advice, we have amended the resolution to what you see up on the screen now. It still states that we support the Second Amendment. It's reaffirming our oath of office, which is upholding the Constitution of the United States and of the state of New Mexico. So if you have any questions maybe after about why legal counsel
made the amendment.
suggested that we do this, I guess is the right word, then please, you can ask us that, or speak to our city attorney, if you so choose, or to any of us, so.
Okay.
Does that explain it good
Yes.
enough?
Yeah, I think so. So we'll go ahead and open it up for discussion and questions from the commission. Does anybody have any discussion? Any questions regarding the amended resolution? Commissioner Randall, it sounds like you have one.
Yes, Mayor, it's just frustrating to me, because just like everyone else here, I come in, seeing the, agenda as it was presented on the website, in the same packet we got with the resolution as it was, and then right before the meeting, I'm handed this, and I understand it's from legal counsel, but it just frustrates me, because especially like all the conversations at the first part of the meeting, they had no idea that this was coming. I wish we could have gotten this out sooner, or posted it, or handed out flyer. It's very frustrating that no one else really got to see this. I mean, I've read through it. I think it is a step in the right direction. I don't have anything wrong with this one. Other than that, it's not what I came to vote on tonight, what was posted.
Okay.
And I would still, in my mind, like to move forward with the way it was before. It's frustrating to me that I understand legal issues and what we should or shouldn't do, but to me it all starts back at the state. They are pushing things that, in my mind, and again, this is my opinion, go against some of these, constitutional rights. And the fact that we can't do the reverse and say, hey, we don't support what the state's doing, frustrates me, because we're scared, well, the state's doing what they want. I don't know, I'm frustrated for this whole situation, but I would still like to move forward with the original resolution. And
Even,
I don't know how I can do that with it being, I see the amended one, or if I make a motion for the regular one, and if, I don't know.
if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't, Ms. Unseeker, I don't know if this is maybe a time for you to explain why, so that people do understand, because I do understand that this is what was on, you know, was put on the website, and then it was, and then,
And to be clear, you guys can decide to vote on whatever resolution you're going to vote on. The original resolution, there are concerns that it can open the city up to liability. And so because of that, we sat down together and tried to come up with a solution that would honor the voices of the city of Aztec in wanting to support the Second Amendment. But I am in no way saying what you can or cannot do.
right, right. I just wanted to make clear, because from your understanding, there's already some cities that are having to rescind sanctuary city stuff.
Just this past week, I believe the
But
Taos
anyway,
County Commission
because of legal issues.
rescinded theirs or repealed theirs.
Because of legal issues. So, anyway,
And folks, I don't know, I wasn't there, obviously. This is just, I guess you would call it secondhand information because I wasn't there. But I understand that I believe Angel Fire and I believe Taos, I don't know if it was Taos proper or Taos County, was given notification by the Attorney General's office. And again, I'm not swearing to this. It's just some background stuff that we had heard as we were approaching this meeting, that they have kind of been given I guess a warning of sorts because of the language in their resolutions, to tread carefully, for lack of a better phrase, because you know, it is the ones that they were discussing, not enforcing or putting city or county or any type of government funding behind, were state laws. And they just were kind of said, hey, you know, it's a state law. There's a procedure to do it, which is through the court system. If you feel like something is unconstitutional, that they were instructed to kind of go through the courts to mitigate that. So again, we did this on advice of counsel, you know, being cautious and not wanting to get us into a situation a la a Bloomfield Ten Commandments kind of similar type of situation. I think it's safe to say we all, believe it or not, we all support the Second Amendment. We all swore an oath. We all, well, I don't know all, I'm sure several of us up here are also firearm owners, including myself. I can't speak for everybody else, and I'm not asking them, just like folks here that are here tonight. But at the end of the day, we have a fiduciary responsibility to do what's in the best interest of Aztec from a legal standpoint as well, not just a majority rule standpoint. So that's kind of why we're proceeding the way we have, and we pay our city attorney to know this stuff and to do some of this stuff, and this is the advice that she gave us, and this is the resolution that she felt more comfortable going forward with. And we didn't, it was a late sort of thing. It was worked out yesterday, because some of this stuff, this is a fast-moving kind of issue. Some of these commissions and towns have been doing this in the last couple of weeks, and you know, it's not like everybody calls our city attorney or calls our city manager or any of us with the goings-on around the state. So we hear about this and we try and react as quickly as possible, and we're trying to do the right thing from a legal standpoint and an economic, you know, fiduciary standpoint as well. So I hope that, you know, you understand that. And
what point? Oh.
Can you read it to us?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we can read it, but I just want to point out that over and over in the community forum, which I had called for, and in our commission, the last commission meeting, and then again tonight, what I hear over and over is that you want us to support the Second Amendment.
That's right.
And that you want us to follow the United States and the New Mexico Constitution. And that's what this resolution says that we will do. So.
Well, you've heard from the people, this is what the people want. We're all for the Second Amendment. If we need to get an attorney on board to fight the state or whatever it may be, let's do it.
Slightly more complicated than that, but I understand your sentiment.
The biggest difference that's taken out is the whereas that says this commission will not authorize or appropriate government funds, resources, employees, agencies, contractors, buildings, detention centers, or offices for the purpose of enforcing a law that is held to be unconstitutional and infringes on the right of the people to keep and bear arms. That part is taken out. So it'll say
that's the part.
Either you're for the second or not. Let's leave all the fluff out.
Well, that's what this
new
does.
resolution
Is
covers.
it's cut and dried. We're going to enforce the second. We support the Second Amendment.
The right to keep and bear arms, not the right for our state government.
Folks, all I can say is that it's right here if you want to take a second to read it. That's the resolution, and I'd be happy to read it. I have it here in front of me.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, they may not be able to read it from where they're.
Okay, well, I'll read it, no problem. I'll read it because I know it's kind of at an angle and it's a little funky there. Okay, so just give me a second. Please keep your comments until we're finished with the meeting, if you don't mind. City of Aztec Resolution 2019-1124, a resolution reaffirming the Aztec City Commission oath of office and more specifically the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. Whereas the City of Aztec City Commission met in a regular meeting on March 26, 2019 at 6 p.m. at 201 West Chaco Street in Aztec, New Mexico. And whereas the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, adopted in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, protects the inalienable and individual right of the people to keep and bear arms. And whereas Article 2, Section 6 of the Constitution of New Mexico provides that no law shall abridge the right of the citizens to keep and bear arms for security and defense, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for other lawful purposes, but nothing herein should be held to permit the carrying of concealed weapons. No municipality or county shall regulate in any way an incident of the right to keep and bear arms, and whereas the members of this commission took an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the State of New Mexico, and the laws of the State of New Mexico, and now therefore be it resolved by the City of Aztec Commission, by the authority granted to the Commission by the laws of the State of New Mexico, and people of the City of Aztec, New Mexico, to stand and defend their rights and liberties, which are guaranteed by the United States and New Mexico Constitutions. We hereby declare this resolution as follows. The Commissioners reaffirm their oath of office and more specifically support the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, passed, signed, approved, and adopted this 26th day, so forth.
What about the rest of it then?
This is the amended version.
There's nothing there.
As we explained, I can't see who exactly, but as we explained, that was part of the problematic piece from a legal standpoint. So,
Comes down to if Santa Fe passes something, like Police Chief Hill, they're send one of his guys out and take something.
we are charged to enforce the laws as passed, and if there is any issue or feelings that it's not constitutional or illegal, then we go to the judicial branch of our government.
About what?
Mr. Mayor, in relation to SB 328, the Domestic Violent Protection Firearms Act, it provides that without due process, a police officer ordered by a judge, no due process, may seize firearms.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not here to debate every single
I know, but by
law,
removing
bill, or whatever.
But by removing that portion,
I'm merely
you
going
take the
on
teeth out.
our city attorney's recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't feel like we're being represented here very well.
Okay.
Well, folks, let's,
We either stand as a people or we fall as a people. We are New Mexico.
I appreciate that sentiment, and I agree.
It's not a sentiment, it's the truth. Amen.
I appreciate you voicing your truth. Okay, folks, this is going south in a hurry, and we can't allow this continuous back and forth.
Maybe we should table it. Mr. We have had 3 meetings. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I really hate to drag this out more, but because it wasn't, because what was on the website and the agenda and that was sent out publicly, I don't know if we should table it to where we can word it to where the attorney's comfortable and we do the voice of the people.
Let's take our chances with Santa Fe. Go with the original, let them sue us. For example.
And
Says the folks that aren't going to be writing the check for this.
It's our money, not yours.
We're getting ready to end this
wait.
meeting.
So we can't end the meeting. So, okay. Okay. Based on what we've heard here tonight and in the other meetings, even though it goes against our legal counsel, which we have done before, and based on what we've heard from the majority of the citizens, I think maybe we should just move forward with the resolution as it is and then deal with it like the other counties are dealing with it. I know, I realize that, but I'm just saying that we also have to listen, we're trying to listen to our legal counsel to protect you and your fund and your money and not get into, that's not the issue. She is doing based on legal, that's not the issue, folks. So it is, the issue is her worrying about us being in a liable situation. Okay, so maybe the best thing would be to put the motion out there as it was in the agenda, based on what the people in the 3 meetings have expressed. I mean, I don't know what the best solution is. I'm just saying, I don't know.
And I'm not for jumping on the bandwagon with everyone, but if Farmington, the county, and Bloomfield, it's that community. We're all, I mean, our resolution's really the same. And it's, we'll all be in this together if it comes. So. Mayor, I'd move to approve Resolution 2019-1124, declaring the City of Aztec a Second Amendment Preservation City.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover.
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry.
Nay.
Commissioner Syed.
Aye.
Commissioner Randall.
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Why is it down to me? Nay.
Nay.
Now, is that on the original one or is it on this?
It's on the original one that was in the agenda packet posted online.
So you voted against that one, and are you going to try to adopt?
Motion to, it hasn't been. Motion denied, 3 to 2.
So, Ms. Unsinker, should we then now put this other, the amended version up?
That is up to you, you all. You are able to
I mean,
do
at least we're saying that we're supporting the Second Amendment.
It does not make any sense.
I don't know what would be the best thing.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
You must not like the jobs very much.
Sir, you have to go, sir.
Okay.
All right.
It's over.
On the second.
So we'll take a short recess.
I'm not coming back.
We've got to close.
We can't, we have to close the meeting and we have to get these land use hearings.
Virginia's calling. Hey, your boyfriend. You can write the check.
We need to leave. Do we have to go?
No, you don't have to.
We gotta go? Oh.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks, Austin. Thanks, Sherry. Austin, Sherry.
I apologize. The meeting's done, so we're gonna clear the building. Take your time, we're not gonna get out right now. The meeting's done. Thank you for coming out. Drive home today.
Well, people remember what the Japanese said right after Pearl Harbor. My fear is you have woken a sleeping giant.
What's your figure on this, Troy?